Hey everybody, this is Menor speaking. I know it's been a minute. It's been probably several months. I don't know. I don't keep track of time. I've between like chicken deaths and predation on my farm, from coyotes, hawks, and you name it, to me building structures for the farm to stop said predation. I've been pretty busy. Appreciate your patience. Thank you for being here. Today I want to talk about pretty much the history of the West seems to be pocked with a tremendous amount of madness, absolute madness. And I've been asking myself for the last few years, what is the source of that madness, and does everyone else share it? One thing I've noticed is that Westerners have a lot of problems that my family back east doesn't have. We also don't have a lot of the positive attributes that you guys have too, so don't feel too bad. But madness is definitely one that pocks your entire history. It is a stone that you've had on your back, hanging from your neck or whatever, wherever you want to put that stone. You've been carrying it for a very long time. Let's talk about where that stone comes from, because I think it comes from a glitch in your initial cultural programming, and maybe we can deprogram it. And that glitch comes from the Westerners' need for purity. Okay. Now I notice this when I talk with people about politics or something. They'll have a candidate or something that's perfectly good, represents them 99% of the way, but there's 1% they disagree with, and they hate it. They can't, I can't vote for him. They just don't see me on this one tiny issue that doesn't really matter. It's the strangest thing, because they'll just shoot themselves in the foot and the need for purity. But this has been happening throughout Western history over and over and over again. Rather than try and sort of nudge their way and adjust their way over to a more balanced position, which the East, I think, I would argue, is wants balance more than purity with their people. Right? Their leaders can be their leaders can be horrendously flawed, and they'll still applaud them. Right? They don't feel ashamed of like Genghis Khan. They actually think Genghis Khan's pretty great. That's why he's Genghis, right? They think that their ancestors, like, they don't judge their ancestors. That's the weird thing about a purity culture, is that you will invariably have to judge your own ancestors because they're not pure like you guys are now, right? Whether it's purity of how ecologically sound you are. Like, well, let's take a really down to earth example of the purity spirals that I see in Westerners that I don't see anywhere else, is with your diets, right? I'll see someone say, I'm going to go on the carnivore diet, and they'll just immediately adjust their entire diet. Boom, slap, done. Everything's different now. Whether it's carnivore or vegan or all juice or whatever other diet they've come up with, whatever fad is in the air, they will say, I'm going to go all in. There's so much all in, right? And you're considered a traitor if you have like maybe a cheat day or something, or you're considered a traitor if you are a vegetarian but you eat fish, or you're a vegetarian but you do eat, like, vegetarian most of the time, but you eat food. You eat you eat food. You eat meat once in a while, right? You're considered, oh, you're not really living up to your principles. You're a hypocrite. I was like, just no, he's not. Like, people are not perfect. Why do we have to be perfect? The need to be perfect is this weird Western thing. Like, you can have imperfections. You can have paradoxes or what have you, right? And the West will call it hypocrisy, but it's just part of the human condition that you're going to have. You're not going to be 100% of your ideals, right? You're never going to 100% represent your ideals. As a matter of fact, you're going to hold positions that are against, contradictory to your stated ideals. That's normal. That's totally normal, right? So they'll see something like a politician who is with them 99% of the way, and then 1%, they just make one mistake, and that politician will never live it down. And then, like, why would anyone ever want to be a great person representing you? Why would anyone ever want to be your champion if you're going to cut them down for making one mistake or disagreeing with you on one thing? Right? It's very weird, and it's paralyzing, and no one would ever you it makes an environment where you have to be completely fake to actually win approval from either side. It doesn't matter. This is left or right. Like, we're not talking left or right. We're just talking east and west, right? Is that you guys in the West tie yourselves up in knots trying to be pure, right? You'll say, like, you're not a real Christian because you have this fault in you, right? Or you do this thing. Uh, let's say they like to do fantasy football and they like to put money on it. Like, someone will say, you're not a real Christian because that's gambling and that's a sin. It's like, well, it's the condition that we sin, I suppose. You think Christianity would give people an opportunity to sort of marry the inherent imperfect nature of man with the perfect nature of the divine, but instead they just use it to just bash each other with it. It's insane. Like, we in the East, who were cut off from the Christians of the West, uh, we did not. We don't use the religion to just bash each other, because then families would be split apart for no reason. Like, there'd be no improvement, right? Imagine if you were on a new gym routine and you were eating something that was kind of sugary while you're at the gym, and you just liked eating it, right? Let's just say it's like jelly beans or something like that, or you're eating a Swiss cake roll. Those are really good. I used to just scarf those down when I was a little fat kid. Okay, you're eating a Swiss cake roll at the gym. Like, you're gonna get dirty looks. Why should you get dirty looks? It's what I'm putting in my body. I don't care. What would it matter? It's not a contradiction. Like, the going to the gym is not a lifestyle. It's weird. You guys have these lifestyles where you have to be pure about what you're doing, and it's horrendously oppressive. Like, people think the East is horrendously oppressive with their culture, and it is in different ways. But what they will call what's in the West is called conformity, where everyone has to be the same and has to think the same and believe the same. Whereas in the East, I'd call it standards. It's like, this is the way you dress at this occasion. This is the way you behave at this occasion. And yeah, maybe there's too many standards all the time. There are certain times where you can let loose and not have standards. And that's usually where you have your third places, or your all male spaces or something like that. And your all female spaces where you can kind of let loose, let your hair down. Like I have today. My hair is not behaving. And not be called a hypocrite for just being a human being. How horrendous is it to be a Westerner, where you're just considered a hypocrite if you, let's say that you're pro 2A or something like that, right? You're pro 2A, but you think maybe like banning a certain type of gun is good. Like, you'd be called a traitor 100%. You'd be called a hypocrite, a traitor. You'd be beaten down. It doesn't matter how much work you've ever done to propel the 2A cause. It doesn't matter how much money you've donated. It doesn't matter anything. Any of your other opinions don't matter. Because if you say, I think maybe we should ban this gun, they won't even, half the time, they won't even argue with you about it, or respect it, or respect the agreement to disagree. It's like, if I said, hey, I think we should ban, by the way, the thing I'm thinking of right now is probably totally reasonable, but in your mind, the viewer's mind, you're probably thinking, oh, is he talking about machine guns or shotguns or something like that? I'm actually thinking about biological weapons. Like, I think maybe we should ban biological weapons. Like, if I'm in my backyard, or I'm in my like lab in my basement, and I'm developing strains of germs, and I've got tons of petri dishes, and I've got like samples of human tissue. Like, I cut a piece of that one tumor from that one lady that is an eternal tumor, right? They have this. It's actually crazy. I don't remember the name of it. I'll have to look it up. Maybe I'll put it in the description if I remember. But there's a tumor from one lady, and the tumor is self-sustaining. If you give it nutrients. I don't mean self-sustaining as in it never dies. It's the weirdest thing. It's like an eternity thing. But they use it to test lots of different treatments and whatnot, because it's a piece of ostensibly human tissue that continues multiplying forever and ever, right? So anyways, let's say I got a slice of that, right? I got a slice of that. I tucked it under my tongue or put it behind my ear, walked out of the lab with that. I got that in my basement. I'm testing all kinds of stuff. I go to all sorts of countries, and I bring all kinds of diseases back with me somehow, right? And I like to test them. Like, maybe the cops should put a stop to that if they find out, right? maybe if I have like some form of something that is horrendously virulent, maybe someone should be like, hey, maybe don't do that, right? Or if I have a position that if you are openly inebriated or something at the beach and you're waving your gun around. I actually had a debate with this Phil Labonte on X a long time ago. I said, if you're on the beach and you have a pistol and you're just waving it and you're inebriated, maybe the sheriff should be able to walk up to you and say, I'm going to take that gun from you, son. And it's like, thou shalt not infringe, thou shalt not infringe. It's like, the example is mostly that I could probably convince a majority of voters to do something about it. And that is demeaning to your thou shalt not infringe. Like, your hyper pure rule is actually really easy to subvert and make ineffective, right? That's why the 2A stuff, the actual wording of the 2A is ignored, because it's untenable, right? By across all standards of all places. Like, it's too strong a wording. They'll say it's not strong enough. I think it's way too strong and way too broad, and it's way too overreaching. Now, you could say, like, you can get into a debate, right? Like, but it becomes so emotional that you can't have a rational debate about it. Like, people in the comment section maybe are going to be blowing me up about this. I just don't think I should be allowed to like develop like super Zika in my basement, and then just like carry a cartridge, like a glass needle cartridge or something, like a needle thrower, like I'm the medic from Team Fortress 2, full of bubonicus plague, super bubonicus, uber bubonicus, you know. Probably shouldn't be allowed to do that. Uh, yeah, and that's considered an arm, right? That's considered an arm. Anyways, yeah, the emotionality is insane. The need for purity is so insane that you can't actually have a rational argument about half this stuff. That's not really the case elsewhere in the world. Like, you realize that's really weird to need to be that absolutely pure about your diet, your clothing, what animal products you use, or what you believe about this political thing, or who you're voting for. That's super strange. Like, that's around the world, there's a lot more understanding and there's a lot more ability to bring people together. It does not surprise me that this need for purity over balance uh, has led to a civilization that is constantly ripping itself in two, like constantly just ripping itself in two. Uh, the balance aspect, I'll talk a little bit about balance because I think balance is a better way to live your life. Is that of there's a certain amount of give and take at all times. Like, it's funny because the word compromise is like a bad word for the purists, but compromise is just a fact of life, right? In the quest for personal and civilizational balance, there are certain things you shouldn't compromise on, right? I think the amount of fentanyl in the streets should be zero, right? That's not a balance thing, but how do you get rid of it should probably be balanced. But let's get more broad first, okay? So imagine a civilization is like a tightrope walker, all right? And they got both their hands up, right? The camera's not wide enough for me to do this, but imagine they're on a rope, a tightrope, and they've got a certain posture, and that's how they have balance, okay? Now, as soon as the wind blows, which is the conditions of your civilization have changed, some external force, some internal force maybe, right, has caused the balance to shift, he's going to have to react with that balance, right? At some times in your society, you might want free, fully open global trade. And then sometimes you may want to cut that down. You have to make decisions. And if you try to appeal to tradition at all times and think, well, all right, I don't know what's the pure solution here, so let's be traditionalists. Well, the thing is, the first tradition that was ever made, the first thing anyone ever did was decide what the tradition was going to be. And every generation since has decided what they're going to create and what they're going to leave behind, which is the quest for balance, right? You're going to have to leave certain traditions behind. So if you've traditionally been an open, free trade, global, no tariffs, no embargoes, no nothing, that's going to have to change at some point. You can't live like that forever because eventually your other civilizations that don't believe in your principles are going to start subverting your principles. It's the Taoist principle that if you are unyielding, you will be brittle. Like the unyielding sword, the one that doesn't flex under pressure, the unyielding sword is the one that breaks in combat. You actually want to flex. You want to be able to flex with the forces around your world. Like, I think it's okay to impose a tariff to countries that don't respect like worker safety or something like that, right? Like, if there's a tariff that said, okay, well, the amount of money that you're saving by treating your employees like garbage, like we believe in America and treating our employees like human beings, and you believe in like somewhere between like macaw and donkey is where you believe in. That difference there's a cost benefit difference. Well, you're just going to tariff you that cost benefit difference. Okay. That way your super cheap, horrible labor no longer has an economic advantage over like ethical domestic labor. Okay. That seems reasonable to me. We can have a debate about that. But if you're a purist, you can't have a debate about that because they're going to get super emotional and say, slippery slope. And you'll get nothing done. And that's what's happening with the West, is that you cannot have a discussion without some Puritan of some creed, whether it's a libertarian creed or what they call conservative, what passes for conservative creed, what passes for liberalism, you damn liberalisms. You're going to have some weird priest, raising a mob to go and ratio you or attack you for saying something that's completely reasonable because you've committed the ultimate sin of compromise. You can't get anything done. Unless the West actually deals with this problem, the civilization is utterly doomed. Utterly doomed. So maybe try to take a more balanced take. Try not to be so pure all the time. Start with your diet, right? Okay, so I lost a whole bunch of weight recently. I just switched out Chinese noodles for mung bean noodles, which are more fiber, which is a complex carbohydrate. It's a lower glycemic index. You look that up. It doesn't release sugar into your bloodstream as fast, right? It fills you up and it takes longer to digest. Versus rice vermicelli, right, which is just refined stuff right in your bloodstream. I just lost weight. I just switched them one for one. Made one little iteration of my diet, made a huge difference. And just do that. Like, why can't we just do one little iteration at a time and just see how the balance changes? Like, if you were on a tightrope, you wouldn't want to just switch all of a sudden to a different posture. That, even though that might be the posture you think we should end up in, maybe if you think ideally that's the way to be, you wouldn't switch it all at once. It'd be insane. You'd lose tons of. You're probably going to fall off. You're probably going to fall off the rope. All right. And then one of the falsities, one of the lies of omission of the fourth turning, weak men create bad times create strong men create good times create weak men, that cyclical thing. There's an assumption that the strong men that result are the same stock and of the same people as the weak men. Often the strong men took over from the weak people, and they're a foreign force, right? So if you allow your civilization to go on that cycle and become weak, someone else is going to take over, right? Like East Asians absolutely rock at being Westerners. Like when we moved to the West, and when we continue to move to the West, we usually do better than the natives by a large margin. Even like the crappy, I'm sorry, I don't mean crap. Yeah, the crappy Asian countries, like Indonesia, where my father's from. Okay, that's not considered like a high tier Asian country. That's like low tier, upper low tier. They do much better than the locals, not just on average, but a lot better. Okay, you're going to get taken over by somebody else. It's inevitably going to happen. You can't be mediocre and unyielding and not respond to the current day and not respond to the changing times and not change your posture and not compromise and stay in existence. No civilization has ever said, I'm not going to change, even though everything's changing around me, and then survive to see another day. It doesn't happen. Your fourth turning, the strong men of the fourth turning are going to be different people. If you do not get your act together, you and your people will probably get exterminated. Economically, physically, even just culturally, right? We're all going to be listening to K-pop. Is that what you want? I don't want that. I hate K-pop. All right, thanks for watching. It's been a lot of fun. I hope to make more of the videos like this, and I'll see you guys again soon. Oh, and by the way, if there's topics you want me to talk about, request them. I do still owe a career advice video, and I want to talk about the American ethnos, because I believe America is not a mixing bowl or a salad or whatever stupid analogy people want to use. I mean, they're not stupid. It's just, they're just so corny. Which thing at the barbecue is America? Is America the beef rib or is it the potato salad? I like potato salad. I don't like beef rib. Why not both? Anyways, I'll be talking about what I think America really is, and it's going to blow your mind. It's the reason why America is the greatest country in the world and always will be. Sorry, guys, in Europe. All right, next time. Thanks for watching. Hit the like if you want to. I appreciate that. Thanks for making it all the way. Have a good day. See you next time.